Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. This is the 256th convening of the Broadband Hui. And just as a reminder, we start the month off on the first Wednesday and then also have it on the third Wednesday of each month. So if you ever forget, it's the first and third. And just as a note, if you want to get the Zoom invite that is gonna go right into your calendar, feel free to let me know, and then I can add you in to the Zoom invite, and you'll get a kind of like a recurring invite. Most of the people, like some 500 people, are getting it via the mailing list. So I don't want to put 500 people on the Zoom invite, but if you do want to get a calendar invite, just let me know and I will be happy to add you to the Zoom invite. Okay, so with that, let's see. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll kick it off with maybe some quick introductions, and then we'll go into our little mana'o of the day. My name is Bert Lum. I'm here in the Hawaii Broadband office, and I'm the Estate Broadband Coordinator, and happily have a co-partner with me to convene the Hui, and I'll give it over to Chrissy for a quick introduction.
Aloha kako. I'm Chrissy Queen. I work over at the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center. I am an advocate for making sure that our communities are connected. So not only the Waianae community, but all of our communities in Hawaii. And so I appreciate you, Bert, for allowing me to participate in what I started, during COVID, as really a great place for everyone to get together so that we could find our way through really an unprecedented time. So hello again, everyone, for taking time to join us.
Yeah, and we got the pretty good, full agenda, and I know Stacy's on a tight schedule, so let me do a quick mana'o of the day, because I think it's important. I've had the pleasure of working out in Puhonua Waianae and helping with some of the connectivity. And I just wanted to share this quote from Twinkle Borge. And I'm sure many of you know her, and many of you might even know this quote. But, she said it once in a talk that I attended, and it really kind of struck home. It's Kuleana wakes up the mana inside. And she shared that, when she was alive, and I think it really resonated because, if any of us find that sense of kuleana for something, it does spark that mana inside that energizes you to want to, keep that responsibility going. So I wanted to share that mana'o of the day from Twinkle Borge. Kuleana wakes up the mana inside. I hope many of you have already met her, but she has since passed, and I think James Pakele is carrying on the legacy over at Puhonua Waianae. Okay, with that, why don't we jump into our agenda? And I wanted to give Stacy a chance to give us an update on the Digital Navigator project. Stacy, there was a press release or press conference, like I think it was back in June, that we participated over at the library, which was sort of the initial announcement of it. But now it's kind of going into the implementation, well, actually RFP phase, right? So why don't you give us an update?
Yeah, so I'm excited to say that we're launching next week in 5 libraries. We're going to already be starting. So today there will be a news conference with the Lieutenant Governor at our Waipahu Library to announce this beginning. So hi again, everybody. I'm Stacey Aldridge. I'm the state librarian. I've missed a bunch of Broadband Hui meetings. I've missed seeing you all. We have the libraries have always been helping people with technology since internet computers were put in libraries, mostly in the 90s. And it's always been a role that we played. And Senate Bill 2214, which was passed in 22, really focused on the role that libraries play in providing access to digital literacy skill building opportunities within our libraries. And so our libraries have a three-pronged approach, which is trying to meet people where they're at. We are looking at how do we do one-on-one assistance? How do we provide classes where people want to gather? And the third is how do we make sure that there are online opportunities for people who want to continue to extend their skills online if they're already comfortable. And so we had classes last year. We still have some classes running, but we're looking to expand on classes throughout the state. And now we're returning to what we did a pilot project on about 2 years ago, which are digital navigators. These will be people who will be available in our public libraries to provide one-on-one assistance. People will be able to make appointments and sit down with them, or if they're there and there's nobody with an appointment, they'll be available to anybody who might have any kind of technology question. So anything from how do I turn off my phone to how do I tether my phone to my TV. We'll have people in all of our libraries. So we are partnering with the University of Hawaii, who's helping to fund this project. And we are also partnering with Mapunawai, which will be providing the navigators in our libraries. And to begin, the navigators will be in the library 2 times a week for about 4 hours. And then as we figure out where we need more hours, we'll start to adjust the availability of the navigators within the state. And where there are places where they need more classes, the navigator will do navigation, but if there's more time, they'll provide classes to people in the communities. So next week, we're starting with 5 libraries on Oahu. We're rolling out at Waipahu, Waianae, Kailua, Liliha, and we have one more. Liliha, Waipahu. It's a lot of W's. We try to hit all parts of the state. I'll have to think for it for a moment, but we have 5 libraries where we'll be rolling out. And then the following week, we'll just continue to roll out. And we're rolling out as Mapunawai is hiring on navigators. So it'll happen, I think, pretty quickly. There's just a few places where they're still looking, but we're very excited. So the navigators will be there 2 times a week for 4 hours in each of our branches, and we'll be posting the schedule on our website. So we'll encourage people to come to the website, and there'll also be a place to book online so you can make a reservation at any one of the libraries with the navigators. So we're very excited to be starting, and excited to be starting sooner than we thought we would be able to.
Oh, that's great. So Stacy, the 5 that you mentioned are all on Oahu, right? For now.
To start. Yeah. There's just the beginning week.
And then you'll obviously expand out to the neighbor islands.
Yep, they are already hiring for the neighbor islands, so we may see some neighbor islands come up the following week. So. And
then if anybody on the Hui wants to perhaps apply for to be a digital navigator, I nominate Ron to be one of the navigators. But how can they go about applying?
Contact Mapunawai. They have a website, and they're more than happy to engage with people who are interested.
Okay.
And the 5th library is Eva Beach Public and School Library.
Okay. And for those of you who may not know Mapunawai, everybody knows who Ka'ala Souza is. So that's who Mapunawai is. So if anybody wants to kind of connect with Ka'ala, just let me know, and I can connect you guys.
We're very excited.
Today's press conference, you're talking about the Navigator program. So this is kind of like today's the official launch. So we're getting a preview, a pre-description of preview. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm really excited. We've talked about this for a long time. And when we did our pilot project, we have libraries where they didn't have enough navigators or enough hours. There were so many people, and they've been asking about the navigators to come back. And we did the pilot only on Oahu and the neighbor islands. We're like, where are our navigators? So we're excited that we'll be able to expand across the state and provide equal access to somebody to help people specifically with any technology question they have.
Any questions? Any questions from the group here for Stacy?
Hey, Bert, I went ahead and just dropped in the chat Mapunawai's website.
Okay.
And Kaala Suiza if folks want to visit there. Mahalo, Stacy, for bringing that out. And I think for our tech savvy teams, for those that were on a few meetings ago, they presented. So we have a Waianae team that I'm hoping they were excited they were going to try to apply for the position out here. So hopefully one of them got it. So mahalo.
Oh, awesome. Oh, mahalo.
And then Stacy, does the grant money, I know it sort of has a period of performance. So what happens after the period of performance? Do you have a strategy on sustaining this digital navigator presence in the library?
So we the funding is in a weird space. So it was related originally to the BEAD funding, but with the state, as with all states, had to rework their BEAD proposals. They've kept this function in it, but the state had already contributed or put towards the match about $1 million. So we're using that part of that matching money to provide this service, and we'll have that for at least 2 years. So during that 2-year period, we'll get a real sense of what are the needs, how many people do we need, how many hours, what does it look like, and then figure out what are sustainable strategies for whether that be having to ask for positions or looking for another way to manage. Also helping to train our staff. Our staff will continue to provide support as they normally do. The navigators just expand our ability to provide a concentrated focus for people who really are trying to learn more and to be more digitally savvy.
Okay, great.
So we're waiting to hear about the BEAD. So that'll determine too a lot of things as well. The BEAD money.
So I guess optimistically, if BEAD money does become available, that helps to kind of extend the period of performance.
I believe so, and it'll allow us to, I think, expand a little bit more in terms of how much time we can provide within libraries.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Stacy? Maybe we'll have you back, Stacy. Maybe we'll get Kaala to let us know how things are, evolving.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Thanks, Stacy. I can let you go to your press conference. We'll see you on TV tonight.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you putting me on the top of the agenda. It's so great to see everybody. Keep on broadbanding. See you all later. Aloha.
Yeah. Thanks, Stacy.
Aloha.
Okay, so I guess as a real quick update, I'll give you guys a reminder that the Broadband Hui is next week, Monday and Tuesday. And, let me see, I can post the agenda in the chat here. And I hope I see all of you there, because it's another place to meet, talk story, kind of catch up on what's happening. Let's see. Okay, so maybe I'll give Chrissy a chance to just talk real quickly about the field trip that's taking place on the Monday, and then all the panels will take place on Tuesday.
All right. Well, listen, Monday, October 6th, we're very excited. We have 2 on-site visit days, one over at Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center, and the other is over in Hauula. So at least for Waianae, we have reached our capacity which was increased from 25 to 40. So needless to say, I am super excited that we have so much interest from folks to come out and see what not only Wane Comprehensive has been doing to address digital inclusion. We know that our community needs to be connected. There are challenges that make that for some impossible, whether it's geographic or affordability. Of course, the digital literacy part, what we're doing for our Kapuna, as well as everyone in our community and who those people are that are assisting. I mentioned tech savvy teens. They're going to be presenting the work that they've been doing. They're just absolutely amazing. What we've been doing with our Kapuna tech workshops. So our most recent one, actually with Kaala, we'll be highlighting that on cybersecurity and how to spot scams. We have a community Wi-Fi, WAI-FI initiative that will be presenting, so a lifeline for our community, along with ways that we've been addressing those folks who do not have internet with setting up kiosks. We have one in our Tamura's grocery store. So I think something very replicable for others around the state. So we'll be highlighting that. And of course, breakfast, lunch. And then after that, for those who are interested in visiting POW, Pu'uhunoa o Wa'anai Mauka, so their new 20 acres, James Pekele will be hosting there. And then you can hear what they're doing to make sure that their folks are being connected. And then it rounds off with a visit at DHHL. So Jaren, and apologies, I can't remember who the other presenter is. So really, I think a really productive day. You'll get to find out what's happening over on the west side. And I look forward to hosting everyone.
Great. And thanks, Amber, for posting the agenda. I won't get into the details. You guys can read it on your own, but there's a pretty full schedule on Tuesday. So I welcome you all to join us, and we can share a little bit of fellowship and network and get a lot of good information, at the Ho'ike coming up next week, Tuesday. Okay, with that, I want to give the floor to Amara, who is a person I met. She's become a friend. I met her in Geneva, and I actually happened to go to a session, and I was sitting next to her and asking her, what the heck is all this stuff going on here? What are they talking about? Who's all these, who are these people? And so she actually, did a really great job sort of breaking it down for me and helping me understand the dynamic of what's happening on the international scene. And just for a reminder, the conference I went to was called the World Summit on the Information Society. And this was put on by the United Nations, and then under the United Nations, you have the International Telecom Union. And then under the Telecom Union, you have something called the WSIS, which is the World Summit on the Information Technology or Information Society. And even underneath that, you have an initiative called the Internet Governance Forum. So I wanted to give Amara a chance to share her insights. And Amara, I'll leave it to you to do a quick introduction on who you are and how you came upon this sort of expertise and where you think it's all going. So Amara, I have shared the screen with you, and you can you have a presentation, you can share it with everybody.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all so much for having me. It's really wonderful first to hear things happening at the state and the local level. I was one of those very exciting employees who got doged. I wasn't a federal USAID employee, but my organization was 90% funded by USAID. So all of our national level and international level work on these topics ended somewhat abruptly, February 14th. So it's really, really wonderful to sort of hear the initiatives that are continuing in these areas, and knowing that even though some of the work has stopped, others continue. And never say the UN doesn't have a bunch of catchy catchphrases. It took me about a year to remember what WSIS stands for. Somewhat bad timing. The internet as we know it, the sort of foundations of it, are coming up for review and a vote in December of this year. I will put a caveat on this. I am a policy person. So if you are a deeply technical person and I start describing the layers of the internet, I apologize because it may start sounding a little inaccurate and it may get inaccurate on the technical side, but the policy is correct, I promise. Basically, the ITU was set up to regulate the telegraph in the 1860s, and that is what they have adapted to help regulate the internet and now AI on an international level. And as I'm sure you can imagine, that has presented just a few confusing points as countries, international organizations, grassroots advocacy groups, and the technical community are trying to get a harness on how to govern this incredibly fast-moving technology. They still move as though it is phone lines. And so that's one of the issues we are running into as we approach this vote. The vote is on WSIS, which is the World Summit on Information World Society on Information Systems. See, even I get it wrong. And it helps us understand the internet as this huge global entity. We've seen Russia break off, we've seen China break off, we've seen a few outlying examples of the internet fragmenting so far. But if the vote happens and goes more towards an authoritarian approach in December, we will basically see the internet stop to exist as we know it. You will type in Google, and depending on what country you're in, you will go to a different site entirely, not just the country's version of Google. So it's, again, China, I think, has the most advanced version of this, but it will be at a larger scale. In terms of coalitions, there had been sort of a concerted effort in most global North countries to maintain this open, interoperable internet structure that really focused on freedom of expression, human rights, content moderation, and online safety. I think we can all agree it's incredibly imperfect and has gotten more imperfect, I would say, over the last year, but the potential for it to get even more restricted is there. In some ways, its lack of restriction is one of the problems, and people can say whatever they want because hate speech is also unrestricted as well as free speech right now. I know that is an oversimplification, and there are many, many layers of nuance when you get into sort of the content moderation and what quantifies as free speech. But the biggest issue right now that we have is that, and this is Bert news that I got yesterday or the day before. I'm sure most of you saw some of the news coming out of UNGA last week. President Trump was, shall we say, not complimentary of the United Nations. And I think there are ways to critique what the United Nations does without pissing off the entirety of the United Nations. But something that wasn't announced, but that they probably will announce within the next week, is that the United States is going to be pulling out of the Internet Governance Forum, which is one of the key multi-stakeholder areas that talks about internet governance. It's one of the only places in the world where you actually get the tech companies. Oh, thank you, Bert. I'm sorry. It's once you get into the UN jargon, it is endless, and I apologize. I hate that I know all of these. I was a theater major. I shouldn't know all of them. And now I've lost my train of thought. I apologize. We really had thought that the United States, even though it was pulling back from international organizations, was pretty committed to the Internet Governance Forum and ITU as places where the technical community, civil society, governments, tech companies, academia could all come together and talk about how these things should be governed, because governments can pretend they know about a lot of things and they should always bring in technical experts. But when it comes to the internet and AI, there isn't a lot of faking it until you make it. You can try, but without the vocabulary, you end up with laws like the UK Online Safety Act that is well-intentioned, but faces blowback almost immediately because it doesn't, they push for age verification, and immediately, because they were only thinking about keeping children from being able to view porn, they didn't think about any of the data privacy issues of asking people to provide their driving license at various websites, which is a somewhat off-topic example, but it's a recent one. So it's a pretty big deal that we are pulling out of the IGF, especially since the United States was a really big proponent of it until even, I would say, May. It wasn't even the change in administration. So without our support, the EU still is supportive of it, but they lack funding. And China is a big old fan of digital sovereignty, meaning they really love to control all of their data, which is surprising to no one. And they are far from the only one, but they are the ones with the most money, and they have been playing the UN really, really well for the past 5 years and positioning their people in international organizations, hoping that the US would pull out. And we're doing that. We are also pulling out of the Freedom Online Coalition. And again, I apologize for all the acronyms. It is what happens when we get into the UN. The Freedom Online Coalition is a bunch of governments who are really focused on committing both policy expertise and money into governing and programs to help support Freedom Online. So the fact that we're pulling out of both of those is not great. On the upside, the WSIS first draft that will be voted on in December came out about 2 weeks ago, and it does have a reaffirmation of the IGF, which was a big concern. So the big multi-stakeholder conference so far has stayed in. That's a good sign. It has a reaffirmation of human rights, which is a really good sign. And it puts a big focus on gender mainstreaming, which with any technical document is a really big deal. We can assume that the United States will not agree to sign anything that uses the word gender, as we've seen across pretty much every document that has come across this administration. Gender is a hot word that they do not appreciate, but the fact that the document has it in there is a good sign. So pros and cons, I think the other pro in terms of hoping that a free internet stays and hoping that the United States doesn't pull back as much as it has on a bunch of other international fronts is that it's a national security issue, because defense doesn't want China in charge of the information space. And you can say human rights all you want. This administration doesn't really vibe with that. But I mean, I guess with the general meeting yesterday, we can discuss national security as well, but national security is more of a hook for them. And this does touch national security in a major way. So the hope is that enough experts remain in place that we can carry enough of the freedom, online interoperability, and an open internet digital space forward. And it doesn't get lost in the obsession with AI, because AI is built on this existing internet governance framework. So if that breaks, a lot of the AI frameworks will by necessity break, because the foundation that they're built on will start moving around, and so everyone will have to reshuffle. Sorry, that was a very long monologue. But happy to take questions now, happy to chat with people further. There are people who have been working on this for 25 years, and I can put those, I can put resources in the chat as well if people are interested in sort of how it's been playing out.
Yeah, thanks, Amara. You know, just for context, and everybody who has been long-standing supporters of the Broadband Hui, you know, we have been strong advocates for getting people connected, getting them computers, getting them the skills to leverage this technology. But I thought it was really important to also give people the opportunity to kind of understand what's happening on this sort of international global level. And these geopolitical kind of forces that are impacting what sometimes we might take for granted, right? We might take for granted the fact that, oh, the internet exists, so, you know, as soon as I can get on the web, I'm good to go. But then there are all these other factors that are impacting the evolution, you know, of the internet. And one of the things that I learned as a result of going to Geneva is that, you know, this World Summit was called, you know, World Summit plus 20, the WSIS plus 20. And I was thinking, what's the relevance of this, you know, 20? And it turns out that the way that it was originally proposed was that 20 years ago, the ITU decided we're gonna have this sort of WSIS process, World Summit, and then as a result of that discussion, they wanted to create an initiative called the Internet Governance Forum. And so, Amara, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, but so this is 20 years ago. So we're talking what 2016, well, 2006, 2006. And the plan was that it'll take 20 years to kind of figure out, are we on the right track? And the 20 years is up. And the General Assembly meeting that Amara references taking place on December 8th. But the announcement that the United States is pulling out and not supporting the IGF is news to me. I don't, it's not surprising, but you know, it is something that's kind of brand new, that it's an official thing. So what's happening is that the degree of support from the international community is definitely going to have an impact on what happens perhaps after 2025 and into 2026 as organizations like WSIS and the IGF continue to find their way, right? And I wanted the Broadband Hui to kind of get a sense as to this geopolitical dynamic, and that, you know, I profess to try to encourage the idea of acting local but thinking global. So as we, you know, get people connected, whether it's digital literacy and digital navigators, or, you know, getting people set up with their community networks, you know, keep an eye on what's happening at this kind of global level, because it does impact us, even though we're way out here in the middle of the Pacific, thinking that, you know, we're happily moving along the timeline. Yeah, these issues that are happening at the international level are really concerning. And again, appreciate Amar kind of giving us the update and if there's any questions about some of the organizations, where they fit, what they stand for, I'm happy to fill in the blanks, and Amar is here for some questions if anybody has some. But this is an ongoing thing, and I plan to kind of keep an eye on it and see how things evolve. So there is a question, Sarah. Sarah, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I see it in the chat, and I wanted to also quickly touch on, Bert, what you were talking about in terms of digital connectivity. My work really focused on touching the global majority and trying to connect with parliamentarians, specifically in sub-Saharan Africa and parts of South America, around this vote in December. And their question was, candidly, why should we care? Half our country doesn't connect to the internet. Our entire focus is getting people connected to the internet, getting them computers. That's why should we care about this boring, esoteric, full of acronyms, elitist, process? And it's a very valid question. And a lot of our work was talking about sort of how the Africa bloc could work together, because as one voice, 59 votes, they could really influence how this vote went. But it's really important that as sort of a very, privileged white lady, I wasn't going in and ignoring what the actual most pressing digital concerns were, trying to really honor that while also making sure they knew that once they got connection, this would really matter. And then, Sarah, to your point, because the markets that they're targeting won't be affected probably. If they're only looking at, except potentially India, like they're looking at, and this is me painting with a broad brush, I'll admit, but having worked in tech, I unfortunately have a somewhat low opinion of big tech giants. They're looking at Canada, Mexico, the US, Australia, Europe, South Africa, India, China. They've either given up on or figured a way to work around it. Those are not the countries that will close off. And so they don't care, or they don't know enough to care. We've spent so long trying to get inroads. We knew people at Google. I worked at the National Democratic Institute, and we had a pretty strong arm into the tech companies. We knew people at Google, Amazon, Twitter before it became X, a couple other big tech companies. And we tried really hard to sort of get them on board, to get them to understand that it wasn't only sort of the right thing to do, but also an economically correct thing to do. But we just couldn't get them on board with this. They are a little bit more involved with a couple other international things, but I am hoping that they will start taking more of a role, because they're the ones who are setting sort of the governance standards. And if we are letting them police themselves, we see everything that's happening with AGI right now. And, it's happening with the internet as well. Yes, again, I'm happy to, please feel free to reach out. I can leave my email. And thank you again so much for having me. It's really, really wonderful to be in communities where things are still happening and progress is being made. And Bert, always great to talk to you.
Amar, we'll definitely have you back on. I really appreciate you joining us. I just wanted to end with this note. The fact that, a lot of these billionaires are actually residents of Hawaii. So you got Larry Ellison, you got Mark Zuckerberg, you got Mike Dell, you got Mark Benioff. They're all here. So we can get people connected and digitally literate and take advantage of, the technologies. But yeah, there's a global shift that's happening, and how do we as Broadband Hui sort of play into that? Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Okay, thanks, Amara. And then I wanna.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna
on.
hop off. I'm back in Geneva, so I'm gonna head to bed.
Okay. Okay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you all. Bye.
Okay, so next up, I wanted to give Seiichi some good amount of time to kind of give us a demo of something called Civic Nexus. And we got the benefit of seeing his demo, and it's really kind of, let me kind of put it this way. It's a real good tool for policy, looking at policy, and he's got it set up such that it does a good job of looking at all the bills that are coming out or will come out, from the legislative website, capital.hawaii.gov. So anyway, Seiichi, why don't you do a quick intro, and then you can proceed with the demo.
Yeah, thanks, Bert. Hello, everyone. This is my first Hui attendance meeting. So quick background, and actually a little bit of connection to the Hui, kind of adjacent. So my previous role, I was the VP of Engineering at Shifted Energy, which is a Hawaii-based renewable tech company. And we used IoT to enable last mile communications to LMI communities in order to convert ordinary water heaters into energy storage assets to enable equitable access to renewable energy. So I'm somewhat familiar with the digital equity topic, and now I am the founder of Civic Nexus. So I will share my screen and let me know when you can see it. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I will be, I created a Broadband Hui account, and Civic Nexus is gifting this to the Hui to track bills in the 2026 session. So the way this works is it's all based on what we call an organization. So I built out a profile, just kind of bare bones right now, but I added a bunch of keywords that I thought would be relevant. And when the real experts come in who have been tracking these bills, you'll come in and help clean up this profile a bit. But what this does is it teaches the system about things that the Hui cares about. And then the system will compare that profile to each of the 4,000 bills. And you can see here that we have all 4,000 bills in the table, but they're now sorted by relevance. And this is not using keyword matching, it's using semantic comparison. So it's the entire profile compared to each bill. So you can come in here and the team will be able to set actions if you want to testify or monitor bills, set priority levels. This deadline is the next deadline that the bill has to meet in order to stay alive. So crossover or decking. It's pulling from the state website every 5 minutes. So this is about as real time as you can get. You can add tags here. So let's say we are tracking this bill, and for example, I want to assign it to Bert to take a look at. So we'll come back to that. Tags can be anything like DAGs2 or DCCA or something. And then let's say we are doing some outreach to legislators, and we just want to say like met with Ilagon. Okay, then we can save notes, and then whoever has an account for this organization will be able to see all the tags and actions and everything. And then once we set some of these fields, we can start to filter the table to make really quick, easy lists. And then you can export to CSV or Excel. And everything in here, including all the custom stuff, will be in that CSV. And then you can come in here. We have a very comprehensive filtering system. So bill type, the originating chamber, if it has fiscal impact, what we call life cycle. So if it's alive or dead, stance, status, and then tags. So this is another way to start to filter the table. And let's say like Bert comes in every day and he just wants to see all the bills that are tagged to him. So now he can just come to here and he can pin this view and he's like, okay, I just want to see all my stuff. So this is these are just workflow tools to help make bill tracking extremely easy. And then some interesting stuff we have here are you can come in and draft testimony. And so this is comparing your profile to the bill. And this is designed to get you to 85% of completion. We are always going to be relying on that final human touch. And you can see it's smart enough to know that the Hui would support this bill, and the writing is actually quite good. You can come in here and edit as needed. And then you can save it to a letterhead, and it will automatically extract the title, room number, committee, all that stuff. So this is like 2-click testimony writing to save whoever's advocating on behalf of the Hui a lot of time. And then we have this bill version comparison feature. So this is another AI feature that is going to compare. There are, I think, 4 versions for this bill. And it can be difficult to go on the state site and compare, read through the committee reports or compare the 2 versions side by side. So this will do it for you. In a second. Okay. So this gives you a summary of the changes. So you know instantly what changed between the 2 versions, a key insight. And then you can see side by side exactly what changed. And I'll scroll down. So all of this text was added. And then you can see like what was removed here. So it just makes it really easy to track version differences. And then there's a hearings calendar that's empty right now. But whenever a high priority bill or a bill you're tracking or set to testify on, whenever a hearing is scheduled for that bill, it'll show up on this calendar. So whoever is going in person to testify or is testifying digitally, you'll be able to come in here and click through to the meeting link or see which room you have to go to. So this is the platform. And Bert, I'll let you tell me who should have access to this. And then I can go in and add each user.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Seichi. You know, and I appreciate the fact that Seichi's gifting this to the Broadband Hui. And the Hui, you know, this is your guys' tool to look at what kinds of bills, policies, you know, you want to support or not as a Hui. Okay, so this is not the broadband office. This is for you all to kind of collectively decide what it is that you want to get behind. And Seiichi, you know, previously we've had a policy subgroup that gets kind of started up you know, right before the session starts, and the session gets really, of course, of the first 3, 4, 5 months. Well, I'll give it over to Sean, but you know, Sean and Chrissy and Dan and Kieran have been really helping to marshal the discussions for the Broadband Hui regarding some of the policy responses. So I would like to give them a chance to maybe ask some questions. John, go ahead.
Sure. I think over the life cycle of the Hui, there's been more and less activity, right? And different people have been involved. And as you point out, it's down to just a few of us hardcore ones who show up. And I see Chrissy and Dan here. I don't know if Karen's also here, but there's sort of a hardcore who continue to track. I think my observation, so ideally, so I think this is a great tool. First of all, thanks for sharing it, Seichi. I'm really happy to see the progress of it, the sophistication of it. My understanding is, I mean, unless there's a lot of new activity at the legislature, we don't tend to be tracking like huge numbers. I suppose if people in the Hui, since you're setting this up, Bert, as a gift to the Hui, I think it'd be smart maybe to just open the general question back to the Hui. Who is interested in policy work, you know, at the legislature? Because this is very focused on the legislature, right? I don't know if it deals with regulatory agencies like DCCA or PUC. But from a legislative point of view, it'd be nice to know who in the Hui is interested in being involved, and we might come up with a bunch of new range of issues like privacy and AI. And I mean, there's a bunch of new issues on the horizon that the Hui could well get more involved with. So I would accept the gift and direct it to that policy group, maybe would be my suggestion, whoever's ready to work on that.
So Sean, that's a good point, and I think it'll be something that organically grows. I know the core, and I wanted to give people a chance to opt in. I want Seichi to kind of describe what it is that nonprofits could perhaps subscribe to this tool, because to Sarah's question, you know, Seichi's a startup, so he's making money doing this, but as a nonprofit. And correct me if I'm wrong, Seichi, but why don't you describe what it is that perhaps nonprofits can, I guess, how would they subscribe to this if they wanted to have their own account?
Yeah, okay, thanks. So we're actually not a nonprofit, but we work very frequently with nonprofits. In fact, we were one of the showcase exhibitors at HanoCon on Friday, and we're doing a pilot
great.
with them. Yeah. So let's say you have a nonprofit or some organization, and you want to track your own set of bills. It would work the same. So you would come in here and say, let's say you're a housing focused nonprofit. So you set a profile specific to housing, and then all the same stuff. It just helps you stay up to date and track legislation. We have alerts as well. So we'll email you if there's a hearing scheduled, if there's an update to a bill. And then, so what we expect is we will help you determine what is relevant. We will help you take action on those bills and help you increase the amount of testimony that you're able to input. And then our core philosophy is that the highest value time that an advocate has is not bill tracking. It's the in-person conversations with legislators, with other stakeholders. But bill tracking is so time consuming that if you let us do a lot of this work kind of through automation, we can buy that time back, that in-person time back for you. So that's how nonprofits can really benefit from this. And yeah, if anyone is interested for an organization, you can feel free to reach out. I think Bert can share my contact. Okay,
will do. Hey, Ron.
Hi, good morning, Seichi. Thank you for your access to your Civic Nexus. I belong to this other group. My wife and I, we're leaders for the P&O Hawaiian Homestead Community Association on the island of Hawaii. As a point of reference, 2 minutes from here is the Rainbow Falls. So we're always in and Bert been to my house, so he knows where we are. But I'm very interested to see if you'll be available to the Zoom meeting, because this organization, we have a monthly meeting. It's called SHAW, Sovereign Councils of Hawaiian Homelands Association. And I think this is, we're starting, we just met with OHA, we just met with DHHL. And we're trying to bridge these two groups to work with one another, because they both serve the Native Hawaiian community together. But too many times they're going down different trails, you know? So we're asking them for some funding to advocate on their behalf, because we're, well, my wife is a beneficiary, you know, but a lot of times their voices are not heard. That's our biggest gripe with OHA and DHHL. They do what they want to do, not necessarily what the beneficiaries require, or they're mandated to do, but they ignore it. So this tool will be really fantastic, because I think we have 2 or 3 people that track bills. OHA has their own staff. Shaw, we do not, because, you know, we don't have that much of a budget. But your tool will be perfect. So would it be possible if you can put in your chat your phone number, and I'll call you once I get permission from Shaw to put you on that a meeting, because we have it every month. And I think now is the time. I know personally two past lobbyists, and these individuals both told me it's so important to do face-to-face meetings. In fact, yesterday, my wife and I, we were up on Mauna Kea. Was it? Yeah,
Linda Chen.
yeah. We met with Linda Chin
Chin.
at DHHL. And I told Linda, it's really hard for you to come over with your staff and waste all that travel time. Why don't we do Zoom? But she said, I'm old tech. I like the face-to-face meetings. And so does Bert, and so does Amber, right? Because you want to know who you're really dealing with, and you cannot know that on a Zoom meeting. So if it's possible, Seiichi, I would love to have you at a future Zoom meeting for the shop, because we're talking to the whole state too. We have about 60 Native Hawaiian organizations. Most of us are 501c anyway. So would that be possible?
Yes, absolutely. I dropped my contact in the message here, and I'm actually finally seeing some of these messages. So that to answer some of these questions, it's a gift to the Broadband Hui, but it is not a free tool. We do have nonprofit discounts.
My friend.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
But I would
Sorry.
be happy to meet Ron. Yes, please contact.
I'm sorry, just got one.
Yeah,
more.
and
Can you design?
we gotta wind down pretty soon.
Okay,
Ron.
but a big concern for us kupunas is we get bombarded with scams. I mean, my wife and I don't even want to pick up the phone. So that's why, if you didn't, your name didn't flash across my cell phone, I would not have answered it. And even though on our internet, we cannot control who comes to our address, and each of us have a unique address. Why can't we be able to control access? In other words, you decide who you open your door to, right? Why can't we do it on the internet or on our cell phone? My question.
That might be a little beyond the Civic Nexus application features, but we'll definitely have some, ongoing discussions about internet security and privacy. Hey, Seiichi, thanks for sharing. People can freely contact him to pursue whatever relationship you want, with Seiichi and Civic Nexus. But as a Hui, we have access, and I'll pick a couple people that I think will be key in heading up our policy subgroup. So stay tuned for that, Seiichi. Okay, any questions now? Before we sign off, I just want to let people know that our next meeting is on October 15th, which is the third Wednesday. And Chrissy and I are putting the agenda together. If you have any suggestions, feel free to contact us. I will put up our closing screen here. And we'll wish you all a great rest of the week. And until we see you again, you all stay safe and all stay awesome. Aloha. Thank you, everybody.
Aloha.
Ahuyo.
Aloha.
Hey, Bert, I have to jump to another meeting. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, sounds good.